Welcome to the Lifestyle Evolution Podcast. I am your host, Joshua Laycock. One of the coolest compliments I was ever given was by someone who had said, I don't understand how you accomplish so much in a day, yet you never look like you're rushed or that you're busy. And it's funny because if you knew me 15, 20 years ago, I was like a whirlwind. I never stopped moving. I was always, busy, but I was flying around at 1,000 miles an hour. And I think while I was productive from like a raw output perspective, I was destroying myself. And I also realized that the quality of the work that I was creating was not very good. And it took me a long time to realize that my personal potency lies in actually having the courage to slow down and to allow myself to just move a little slower, move with a little bit more intentionality, and ironically, or not, if you think about it, I've actually been able to create and output a lot more without the accompanying stress and anxiety that comes from being jammed up, being constantly on the move. And look, I would love to say that I'm like this calm, chill, relaxed being all the time. That's not true. I don't really believe that anybody is. But what I really noticed during my own sort of moments of introspection is that when do I lose it? When do I get stressed? When do I get frustrated? When do I get angry? It's when I'm running behind, when I'm having to hurry, when I would just rather be doing something else or needing to be somewhere else in the moment. And I've allowed that to inform how I spend my day. Tactically, and I've said this before, I plan my day. I have my day planned out from the moment I wake up. My day usually starts around 5 to when I shut it down and go to bed at about 10:30. Every moment in my calendar, I know what I'm doing. Now, again, and I've spoken about this, a lot of people freak out and they go, that doesn't sound appealing to me at all. When you look at my calendar, and people who are actually really curious and look at it, and I generally share it with people, they actually then flip it and go, no, that's bullshit. Look how much downtime you have. Look how much doing nothing time you have. That's not scheduling every minute of my day. Well, it is. And yes, I schedule downtime. And yes, I allow myself lots of time in between my tasks. A couple things I just learned, and maybe it is attention deficit disorder. I don't know. I've never been diagnosed and I've never really bothered with it. But, the people around me think that I'm probably the poster child for ADHD. But I know I've learned over time that transitions are challenging for me. And I see it in my son as well. When I have to move from one task to another, I generally have to have some moment of break in between. I usually have to wander around the house, make a coffee, go to the bathroom, wash my face, like something. I don't really bounce back and forth between tasks. Well, it creates tension in my body. So I transition myself. I leave myself time to transition from one task to another. That allows me to slow down. It allows me to just be more present in my own body and focus on what needs to happen. I also have learned to prioritize slowing down. So yeah, I block hours in my day of unstructured time to just do kind of whatever feels right. This is time committed to mucking about with my family. This is time to just, I don't know, watch a movie or a show. I do still get a lot done in my day. It goes back to that quote. People will recognize I still get a lot done, more than most. Am I this like hyper productive output cranking machine? No, I don't really want to be anymore. By prioritizing and knowing what is important to me and where I'm going to spend my energy, that's then allowed me to focus in on that and also to get rid of the rest. There's a really great book, 10x is easier than 2x, I think is what it's called. And it's a phenomenal entrepreneurial book, but really at its core, I'm sure I've taken their intent out of context, but really what it talks to me about is like focusing your energy on the 20% of stuff that matters to you the most, and taking that 80% and shoving it off and handing it off to someone else or letting it go or something. And I've tried, I think I've realized indirectly that that's sort of what I've done in my world is I know the things that are really important to me. I've also allowed myself to recognize the things that most other people don't find value in. And I've now itemized that as a task. Like I said, spending time with my kids when they come home from school, that's a priority for me. And I put it in my calendar and it's blocked. And I don't even have to fight with that anymore because now I realize, like, on the grander scale or the grander scheme of things, what are my priorities? And today's podcast isn't about priorities, although we've talked about it and we will continue to talk about it. But the point is allowing yourself to slow down a little bit. It's one of the hardest things that a lot of my clients talk about is like, I can't stop. They always quote Einstein, right? It's like, life's like riding a bike. If you stop, you'll fall over. You just have to keep moving. And I don't believe that. Sorry. I think that if you take that analogy literally and you constantly ride your bike all the time, you're going to wear out. Knees are going to wear out. You're going to run out of fuel. Do you even know where you're going? Like now you're just riding a bike for the sake of riding a bike as opposed to having some purpose, some objective. And I don't mean that riding a bike just for shits and giggles isn't fun. You know what I mean? We're now, it's like we're doing something for the sake of doing something as opposed to with intention and with purpose. So I don't buy into this. You have to be moving all the time. And I see that in my clients. When I ask them what they do in a day, one, they're very rarely organized, but they start listing off all these things. They've got 1,000 things on the go and there's overlap and there's competing priorities and they have to do everything at 20,000 miles an hour. And one of the most common complaints that I hear from people is like, well, I don't have time to do the things that I love to do. Well, what did you love to do? I love to write. I love to play the guitar. I love to play basketball with my buddies. I love to go for a bike ride for no apparent reason. I like to do all these things, but life is just too busy and I don't have any time. And I'm sad about that because I used to be like that and I was fat and out of shape and I was unhappy and I was numbing and hiding from the world and taking my little dopamine hits wherever I could find them because life wasn't pleasurable. It was a grind. When I teach the little kids jiu-jitsu, I always say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I think that applies to life. And the more I slowed down, the more I allowed myself to transition into different tasks more smoothly. The more I allowed myself to breathe and to be present in the little things that needed to happen, ironically, the more efficient I was able to be, the more output I was able to create. Even little things like cooking dinner, which I do from time to time. My wife is a phenomenal cook and takes the lead there. But when I cook, or when I prepare breakfasts for my kids, or build their lunches, or when I have a creative task to do, or when I record these podcasts, I leave myself time to do it. I allow myself to move through the process slowly. And then I find I'm much more effective and I'm a lot less stressed. And that is one of the big benefits of learning to live this slow life, which is kind of like my mantra these days. It's like my stress levels have plummeted. I still have moments of stress. And I think actually a certain level of stress is good. Holding yourself accountable to deadlines. Those things still exist in a slow life. They're just more reasonably defined. But being able to get rid of and vent off the stress of always moving quickly. It's helped my physical health. It's helped lose weight, get stronger. It's improved my relationships. I sleep better. And the quality of the work that I do is better. And it allows my mental health to thrive. when I can learn to move slowly, I can also learn to be more patient with myself when I'm feeling frustrated or scared or anxious or angry or whatever it is that kind of life wants to throw my way. I have margin in my day to be introspective, to take a walk, to look inside of myself, to journal, to call a friend and say, hey, you got a couple minutes? I'm feeling kind of off. Almost all of the creative work that I do germinates and grows during my quiet, slow moments when my brain is not distracted by constantly scrolling on my phone or listening to 1,200 podcasts. Or the ability to be creative flourishes in these slow moments of boredom. And again, it's when the beautiful things show up and these ideas start to roll. And again, and I'm not talking about like pure sort of artistic creativity, music, art, whatever. Like at work, when I got shit to do, if I allow myself to breathe, how many times have you rolled into a meeting and you show up and people say like, sorry, I didn't read all the documents. What are we talking about? I didn't read what we were preparing for the meeting. I'm not ready. I didn't read those documents. I didn't have time. I'm too busy. Let's just hash it out in the meeting. Those meetings are not productive. We spend so much time just catching up, right? We're not creating solutions. But if you block time to go over the materials, to be ready and to show up to whatever it is that you're showing up to prepared, well, then you can use that allotted time to actually come up with some solutions, to actually be creative in the way that we want to address this particular problem and come to some sort of an actionable conclusion. This has very direct applicability into our world. This is not some fanciful thing around like, art and sort of downtime and hobbies. And yes, those matter there, but I'm talking about directly actionable opportunities to improve in your day. If you've got a day job, corporate, whatever, like that scenario I just explained, how often does that happen? I don't know about you. Most of the meetings that I show up to, there's almost always someone or a large percentage of someone's who show up too busy to be prepared. And how good are those meetings? They're not. So it leads to better decision making. It allows you to slow down enough that you can assess the situation properly, define the situation properly, creatively explore options, and then decide what we're going to do. One of the biggest problems, ironically, in this world of fast-paced, everything has to go at 1,000 miles an hour, is that I am seeing the death of the courage required to be decisive. Again, go back to corporate. So many people are terrified to make a decision. I think that's because subconsciously they know they haven't given it the kind of time and energy required to make a healthy and informed decision. As I've allowed myself to slow down and embrace this slower life, I can approach a situation and with more courage and confidence say, now we're going to do X. I think X is the right thing to do. Let's get that done. And usually people breathe a sigh of relief. Okay, someone's taking charge, someone's made, and I feel very confident in my decision. So I mean they're always right. That's, I think there's an increased probability that they're a better decision. But I don't have that gut rot feeling in my stomach if I have to make a decision because I know I've actually taken the time to chew over, the kind of things that need to be done. So where are we at? We've got reduced stress, improved mental health, enhanced creativity, better decision making. I've talked about increased productivity, improved relationships. Ships passing in the night aren't very good scenarios for creating lasting relationships. One of the things that happens a lot in life is that when we let life get really, really, really busy, ironically, the most important things to us are the first things that we let go of. I don't understand it. I lived this as well, so I'm not throwing rocks. The men I work with, you tell them, what are the most important things in your life? My family. How much time do you spend with your family? Very little. That doesn't strike you as odd? Yeah, we get into the fallacy of if I make a lot of money, everyone's happy. That's bullshit. Money matters a lot. It's not the only thing. We know that. But how many people make time daily to spend talking and hanging out with and playing with the people that really matter most? To slow down and to be present with those people is the absolute best use of your time. I can't think of anything else to say about that other than, like, you're now consciously committing resources to that very thing that the overwhelming majority of men say is the most important thing to them. And if you're not spending that time and energy, then I'm going to call bullshit on you saying it's the most important thing to you. Even the guys that are like, no, money's what my family needs. And look, if you're struggling, like legit struggling to pay your bills, struggling to put food on the table, I got it. Sometimes you got to sacrifice and you got to grind to make the amount of money that is needed to survive. But the overwhelming majority of us, the people listening to this podcast, that's not you. Likely. Most of the men that I work with who over-index the financial contribution of men, I think are actually really worried about what the world thinks of them in their capacity to earn. Yet again, in the overwhelming majority of the people that I speak to, when they have those conversations with their spouses, money is not the thing they need. Yeah, there's value in that. But few, not always, but few spouses get really angry because the guy's not earning enough. Look, I know of some situations where it's like, quite frankly, you got to get off your ass. You got to turn the TV off. You got to turn off the porn. You got to turn off the football. You got to whatever, and you got to get to work. That percentage of the population exists, to be sure. But more often, the men are over-indexing on the financial contribution, when really all they want is a vacation where dad isn't plugged into work all the time, or time after work where dad can put the phone down, dinner that doesn't have phones or TVs or screens, time sitting in bed with the spouse where the phones are down, talking, laughing, cuddling, other things, real deep connection. All that comes from the ability to slow down and to recognize that this frenetic pace doesn't have to exist. And I would say probably most potently, the ability to slow down allows you to be more introspective and reflect on yourself in your own life and how you're showing up. So many men that I speak with who are going through a divorce didn't see it coming. They were blindsided by the pain that their spouses felt on such a level that they were prepared to end the marriage, to walk away, often with children. There is a lot of head in the sand going on with that. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to call it out. And this is not deliberate, but if we're moving that fast and we are that preoccupied that we can't see that the person that we love the most, who we've chosen to spend our entire lives with, is so fed up that they're prepared to walk away, we have missed something catastrophic. And our ability to be introspective and to be in tune to not only what we need, but how am I receiving and how am I responding to the people in my life? Am I providing them what they need? Are they feeling safe? Am I feeling safe? Am I connected? And let me be clear, the flip side is also true. So many men are grinding, because that seems to be the buzzword, has been for a while now. Grinding away, grinding hard, grinding. Look at me, I'm a stud, I'm grinding. And all of a sudden they wake up one day and they go, fuck, I'm really unhappy. We don't just wake up one day and get really unhappy. It chips away at us. It melts its way into our world. We're just too freaking busy to notice. And then it gets to the point where we can't ignore it anymore because it's all consuming. Our ability to be introspective, to increase our self-awareness, is what will save us from this smashing off the rocks, rock bottom kind of mentality that so many men require in order to affect real change in their lives. When was the last time that you actually asked yourself, what do I really need in this moment? What do I need more of? What could I use less of? What are my needs? What are the things that I want to accomplish in this world? How long have I been on autopilot? That ability to find those slow, quiet moments affords you the opportunity to reconnect with yourself. And when you start to listen and then have the courage to do something about it, your strength increases exponentially. You enjoy more moments of happiness. You develop the resilience to handle the challenges that the world is going to throw your way. Now, sometimes you're going to be asked to move quickly. I decided a long time ago that I wasn't going to chase the huge paycheck, the big title, the accolades. I realized it wasn't really what I wanted. Now, that's not for everybody. Sorry about that. Hopefully you didn't hear the fire trucks going by. If that's what you want, well, then you need to recognize what you're going to sacrifice. And that's not a threat or anything, right? It's just like, what are you going to give up? But for most of the people that I talk to, they're at this point where they realize that's not necessarily what matters most to them. It's no surprise that when most men are at their most fed up, at their most overwhelmed, the thing I hear the most often is, I just want to buy a cabin in the middle of the woods and do nothing. We long for slow. We long for simplicity. We long for peace and quiet. Not all the time. But when we are maxed stressed out, we are over-indexed in one direction. It is no surprise that our body screams at us to go to the opposite. Go in the middle of nowhere and shut everything off grid, everything. Get rid of it all. I can't handle it anymore. The antidote to the overwhelm is living somewhere in the middle. The more out of alignment we go to one side, we course correct by going the opposite. That's why I think so many guys who burn out just get enveloped in social media, porn, drugs, video games, whatever. And then they just like all productivity shuts down because they've swung so hard in one direction, they need to come back and overcorrect. Whereas I think if you can aim for somewhere in the middle, like I know guys who live way slower lives than me. Little putters. And that's not for me. I still have ambition. I still have productivity goals. I still have people who rely on me. That's not my objective. That's not what I'm selling here. And if that's what you want, like, game on, man. I get it. But I think most of us want to be able to find some peace without giving up everything. And this is the place that I've found. I've found this sweet spot right now. Living this slow life allows me to sit in that sweet spot of contentment and to still have some drive. To feel good about who I am in the moment, but also recognize that there's things that I'd like to do better. There are areas in my world that I need to kind of step it up. Slow life isn't shunning productivity. I actually think that slow life is the secret ingredient to establishing an incredible life full of love and happiness and contentedness and productivity and output and success. So I didn't really intend to create a list, but it sort of showed up. The benefits of the slow life: reduced stress, improved mental health, enhanced creativity, better decision making, increased productivity, improved relationship, better physical health, increased self-awareness. It leads to a real sense of balance in the world, avoiding the need to constantly overcorrect and then the consequences that come from those overcorrections. So embrace the slow life. And I think that you will probably get a whole lot more done than you're used to. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you think this is bullshit, I don't know. But I can tell you it's taken me from a pretty dark place to an unbelievably happy place. This is part, for me, of evolving. When I was thinking about this product I wanted to put out here, you know, everyone wants to have a cool name. And I had a bunch of names and I didn't like any of them. And really what I decided I wanted to do was just evolve my lifestyle. I wanted to do better. And as I moved more slowly with more intention, I realized I was evolving my overall lifestyle to something that is, I think, better than what a lot of people enjoy. I'm pretty fortunate in that respect. Hence why I call this movement the lifestyle evolution. So, if this is of interest to you, great. I'd love to hear from you. Just a reminder, so this podcast comes out every week. We've also got the online men's group, the Lifestyle Evolution Project. It's hosted through Mighty Networks. We've got a good group of guys in there having some really, really potent conversations. I'm still a part of a bunch of men's groups in a consulting capacity, but I had forgotten how much I love group work and what incredible transformations can happen in a very, very short period of time. What happens in that group is totally sacred, and I won't repeat any of the things here, but we've had 2 calls so far on this newly launched group, and already the guys are having a profound, profound experience. The messages I'm getting from the guys being like, oh man, this is exactly what I needed. This is the way it's got to be. These calls are now my non-negotiable. I just love that. If you need that group, if you need that community, reach out. There's a link in the bio. And you can find us online. Just search my name or search out Lifestyle Evolution. We're all over the internets. You can find us, no problem, and join our group. We meet every Thursday night, Eastern Standard Time at 9 p.m. We've got an online community. We're talking about parenting. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about our relationships with food and fitness, entrepreneurial endeavors. We're talking about pretty much everything that matters to men. And we're having a whole lot of fun along the way. We'd love to see you in that group. It's a growing group. I think it's going to make a very have a very profound impact on the lives of the guys inside of that group. And already I can see that they're benefiting and enjoying that camaraderie from guys that are completely unrelated showing up in this world. We got guys all over the world, pretty much in every time zone now, coming together and connecting. So I'd love to see you in there. You can either shoot me a message or find me on the internet, and we'll get you into that group. And there's a lot of wicked things happening. So I hope that you have an absolutely incredible day. Find some areas in life where you can slow down. And even if that starts with just blocking off, I don't know, an hour a day to just start being and starting to slow down and enjoy the solitude that comes from not moving at 1,000 miles an hour, I think that you will realize that this slow life is addictive. And I hope that you get sucked into it and realize all the potent benefits that I have found. Take care, guys. Talk to you again soon.